Hey, my name is Ryan Cole. I'm 33 years old. I live in Cedar Falls, Tennessee, in an apartment with one chair on the balcony because buying two felt like optimism I hadn't earned yet. I work at Cedar Falls Regional Airport as ground operations supervisor, which sounds more impressive than it is. Mostly it means I'm the person passengers yell at when a flight to Atlanta is delayed because of fog in Cleveland, and I have to keep smiling and pretending this is somehow my fault. I'm good at absorbing other people's chaos, less good at managing my own. I'd been divorced for 14 months when the truck ran the red light. I wasn't supposed to be on my motorcycle that night. I was supposed to be home eating leftovers and watching something I didn't care about on a screen I was mostly ignoring. But it had been a long shift and the air was warm, and I took the long way back because sometimes a road is the closest thing to peace you can find. Then headlights, then gravel, then asphalt against my shoulder, and the particular silence that comes after impact when your body hasn't decided yet what to feel. The next thing I remember clearly is a voice saying my name. Not sir, not can you hear me, not the standard ER opener they teach in training. My name, first and last. Ryan Cole. I opened my eyes, fluorescent lights, machines, the antiseptic smell of a place built for urgency, and above me, leaning into my field of vision with a penlight in her hand and dark hair pinned back above green eyes, Mia Carver. I'd know those eyes anywhere. I'd been studying them, quietly and from a careful distance, for the better part of 2 years of high school 15 years ago. Can you follow my finger? She said. Mia, I said, which was not the correct response to a neurological assessment. Her expression shifted. Just for a second, a crack in the professional surface, something warm underneath it. Then it closed again. Follow my finger, she said again. I followed it. She checked my pupils. She checked my shoulder. She checked the road rash down my arm with hands that were completely steady and careful. You scared me when they brought you in, she said, quietly, like it came out before she could stop it. You knew it was me? I saw your ID. She didn't look up from my wrist. You still make the same face you always made. What face? The one where you're in pain but you don't want anyone to notice. I looked at the ceiling. I'm on the floor of the ER. I think they noticed. The crash, yes. The rest, no. She said it plainly. Like it was an observation she'd been sitting with for a while and had finally decided I could handle it. I stared at the ceiling tiles and tried to think of something that wasn't you remembered something about me. My heart monitor made a small, inappropriate sound. She glanced at it. That's from the crash, I said. Of course, she said. For context, Mia Carver and I were in the same high school for 2 years, Cedar Falls High, class of 2010. She was the kind of girl who didn't need to try to be noticed and still somehow seemed unaware of it. She was in advanced everything. She had the particular quality of being fully present in every room she was in, not performing, just there, in a way that made the room feel different when she left it. I noticed all of this from a very careful distance and did absolutely nothing about it. Because I was 17 and working 20 hours a week at a grocery store and living with a mother who worked doubles and a father who didn't live with us, and girls like Mia didn't look at guys like me. Not because she was cruel, she wasn't, but the world had a logic to it that I understood and accepted. Some doors were for other people. Then graduation night, but we'll get there. Mia was working a double. I found that out when I asked what time it was, and she said 11:45 without looking at a clock, and then added, I'm here until 7. The ER at Cedar Falls Regional was quieter than you'd expect at midnight. One man with a wrapped hand, an older woman asleep in the corner bay. The soft percussion of machines. Mia moved through it all with the fluency of someone who had learned this particular world down to its smallest grammar. She came back to my bay 3 times before the imaging order came through. Each time she said she was checking my vitals. Each time we talked about something else. You work at the airport, she said on the second check. Not a question. I've seen your name on the departure board. Operations supervisor, I said. It sounds like I run things. Don't you? I apologize for things. Different skill set. She pressed her lips together. That's not nothing. How long have you been at Cedar Falls Regional? I asked. 4 years, she made a note. Before that, I was doing a fellowship in Memphis. Before that, Vanderbilt, she said, nursing school. A pause. Before that, Boston. That's where you went, I said, after graduation. She went still, just slightly. You remember that? I remember a lot of useless things. She looked at me, then she picked up the chart. Imaging will be ready in about 20 minutes. She walked out before I could say anything else. The curtain moved at 11:58. The man who stepped in was wearing a rain-dark blazer and a Cedar Falls regional visitor badge and the specific expression of someone who has entered a room they consider theirs by default. He looked at Mia first. She'd come back to check something on my monitor, and then at me, and I watched his face do something small and deliberate. "Mia," he said, "I heard you were down here." She turned. "Nathan." Something shifted in the air of the bay, not dramatic. Just a change in pressure, the way a room feels before weather. "They said you'd been in Bay 4 for a while," he said. "I wanted to check in." He was smiling, his eyes weren't. Mia held the chart. "My patient has a possible concussion. I'm assessing his memory." Nathan looked at me. "Ryan Cole," he said. "My full name, the way you say a word you looked up. Airport." "That's right," I said. "Mia talks about Cedar Falls a lot," he said, which was an odd thing to say and clearly meant to land as something else. "Small town." "Smaller when you're horizontal," I said. Mia coughed. Nathan didn't smile. He stepped slightly closer to her and said, "Your mother called. She wants to confirm Sunday." "I'm working," Mia said. "I told her you'd say that. Then she's already prepared." Nathan's jaw shifted. "Mia, can we not?" "My patient needs imaging," she said. "I'll talk to you later." He looked at me with a smile that had no warmth in it. "Hope you feel better." He left. The curtain settled. The bay went quiet. Mia stood there for a moment with her hand on my chart. Then she exhaled carefully, the way you do when you're trying not to show how tired something makes you. "Ex?" I said, "almost fiancé." "Almost meaning I said yes once and then spent 6 months trying to understand why it didn't feel right." She clipped the chart. "Which is not a conversation for a hospital bay. You started it. I finished it." She looked at me. "You need imaging." "Mia," I said, "graduation night." She stopped moving. "What about it?" "You asked me something earlier, before you sent me to imaging," I said. "You asked if I remembered what happened after graduation. I asked if you could recall recent events. Standard concussion protocol." "You said after graduation." She looked at the curtain, then at me. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. "Do you?" I did, not all of it, but enough. Graduation at Cedar Falls High was held on a Friday evening on the football field. Cheap folding chairs, heat still coming up from the turf. My mother in the third row in a dress she'd ironed twice that morning. My father not there, which I had stopped being surprised by and not yet stopped feeling. I remembered Mia crossing the stage to applause that seemed louder than the occasion required. I remembered her parents in the front section, tall, composed, the particular stillness of people who had already decided what came next. I remembered leaving early because I had a closing shift. And I remembered the parking lot behind the gymnasium. Rain had started, the sudden kind, not the kind you plan for. I was cutting through to get to my car when I saw her, standing under the gymnasium awning in her gown, the cap already gone, makeup running, her parents near a black car at the edge of the lot, her father's voice carrying. "Hey," I'd said, very original. She'd looked at me. Her face was the kind of cracked open that happens when you've been holding something for a long time and your hands just gave out. "I can't go home right now," she said. "Okay," I said. "Do you want to go somewhere else?" I drove her to Sycamore Ridge, the overlook above the river that every Cedar Falls kid goes to exactly twice, once at 16 and once when they need somewhere to not be found. We sat in my car while the rain came down and she talked. She told me her parents had chosen her college before she applied, her major, her advisor, her dormitory. She told me she felt like she was living inside someone else's blueprint. She told me she'd been accepted to a community arts program in Nashville that she hadn't mentioned to anyone because there was no point. I told her I hadn't applied anywhere because I hadn't had time to figure out where I wanted to go. She laughed, really laughed, and said that was the most honest thing anyone had said to her in months. We sat there for 2 hours, and at some point in the dark, with the rain on the windshield and the city lights below us, she turned and looked at me and said, "I've been trying to figure out who you are this whole time." And I think you're the kind of person who shows up, she said. Not because someone's watching, just because. Then she kissed me. It wasn't tentative. It wasn't confused. It was the kind of kiss that knows exactly what it is. Brief and certain. Her hand against my jaw. The whole world going quiet outside the rain. And then we sat there for a while longer, not saying much, and eventually I drove her home. The next morning she was gone. Boston, her mother told me when I called. She's moved on, Ryan. You should too. I wrote to you, Mia said. The imaging bay was empty. I had gone in still thinking about her standing under that awning. An orderly had brought me back 20 minutes ago and she was waiting. The rest of the ER had gotten louder. In here it was quiet. What? I wrote letters, 3 of them, that summer, before I understood that you weren't going to write back. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't, the way hands aren't when someone's been deciding whether to say something for a long time and has finally decided to say it. I thought you weren't answering. I thought the night meant something different to you than it did to me. I never got any letters, I said. She looked at me. I know, she said. I know that now. The curtain moved. Nathan. He came in without knocking, which was a thing about Nathan I would later understand, the assumption that rooms belonged to him until proven otherwise. He looked at us and did the thing with his face again. Your father called, he said to Mia. He wants to talk to you. I'm working, she said. He said it's important. Everything is important to him until it isn't. Nathan looked at me. Something in his expression had changed from the first time. Less management, more something underneath it. Mia, can we talk outside? Ryan Cole, I said. You said my full name when you came in. I didn't tell you. Mia didn't say it. You already knew it. The bay went very quiet. Nathan smiled. Your name's on the ER intake. The intake is confidential, Mia said. She was looking at him differently now. Nathan, Mia. How do you know his name? He adjusted his jacket. Your father mentioned you two went to school together years ago. My father knew about Ryan. He mentioned it. When? Nathan said nothing. I thought about July of the year we graduated. Mia's house, the iron gate, her mother's voice through the intercom. She's moved on. You should too. I had believed her because people like me believed people like them when they said things with enough certainty. The letters, I said. Nathan's eyes moved to me. I sent 2 letters that summer, I said, to her family address. Both came back unopened. Which wasn't entirely true. I'd called once and written once and assumed the silence meant what silences usually meant. But the way Nathan looked at me when I said it told me everything. Mia turned to him. Nathan. You were 18, he said. His voice had changed, smaller. The polish was cracking. Your father thought, my father thought what? That you needed to focus. That you had opportunities. That I needed what exactly? That things at home needed to be managed. The word sat in the air between all 3 of us. Managed, Mia said. He was trying to protect you from letters, she said. He was trying to protect me from letters. Nathan looked at his hands. Our families knew each other. I was around your house a lot that summer. My father and yours had business together. I helped with the mail sometimes. The machines around us kept doing their work. The rest of the ER kept moving. In this particular bay, nothing moved. You took them, Mia said. Not a question. Nathan didn't answer, which was the same as answering. What happened next wasn't loud. That's the thing I remember most. Mia set my chart down on the counter. She took her ID badge in one hand and held it for a moment. Then she looked at Nathan and said, Get out of this bay. Mia, get out. He left. The curtain settled. The bay was so quiet I could hear the rain that had started outside. Mia stood with her back to me for a moment. Her shoulders were moving slightly. Hey, I said. She turned. Her eyes were bright, but she wasn't crying. She looked like a person who has just had something confirmed that they suspected for a long time and are still deciding what to do with the confirmation. I thought you didn't write back, she said. That whole summer I thought I'd misread it. The night. I thought it was just a night to you. It wasn't a night to me, I said. She looked at the curtain. 15 years. 15 years, I said. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket, held it for a moment. Then she crossed the bay and pressed it into my hand. My number, she said. This time no one gets between us unless you tell them to. My sister Lena called at 1 in the morning. I had 7 missed calls from her when they brought my phone back in a plastic bag with my wallet. I called her before she filed a missing persons report. "You idiot," she answered. She was crying. "Nice to hear your voice. You crashed your motorcycle. The truck helped. I'm coming. You have the kids. I'm bringing them. Please don't bring 3 children to the ER at midnight, Lena," she sniffed. "Are you alone?" I thought about the piece of paper in my hand. No, not exactly. A pause. "Ryan, what?" That voice. "I don't have a voice. You have one voice for work, and one for me, and one for when you're about to do something your heart's been saving up." I closed my eyes. "Go to sleep, Lena. Text me when you're discharged. I will. And Ryan, yeah. Don't let lonely make the decisions." I almost laughed. Then I thought of Mia saying I thought I'd misread it, and I thought about all the years I'd spent assuming the silence had been the truth. "Too late," I said quietly. The charge nurse was a woman named Kim, who had clearly seen every variety of interpersonal complication an emergency room could produce, and had developed a professional serenity about all of them. She came in around 2 o'clock to check my 4 and looked at the security guard and back at me and said, "How's your pain level?" "On a scale of 1 to 10, I said. "My ribs are a 7 and my situation is a 12. She wrote something down. "Has Mia been to see you since the imaging?" "She had to step out," I said. Kim nodded. "She'll be back," like she knew something about it. "Does she do this often?" I said. "Have complicated nights?" Kim looked at me. Then she smiled in a way that wasn't quite an answer and wasn't quite not. "She's very good at her job," she said. "She's also been here 4 years and I've never once seen her give a patient her personal number." She left. I held the folded paper in my hand. The curtain moved at 2:15, not Nathan this time. A woman in her late 50s, camel coat, pearl earrings. The specific composure of someone who has never let a room see them come undone. I knew her immediately, even though I had only seen her once, through an iron gate 15 years ago. "Ryan Brooks," she said. "Wrong last name. Old mistake." "Cole," I said. "Ryan Cole." She stepped inside. "You need to stay away from my daughter." 15 years collapsed into 6 words. "You told me she'd moved on," I said. "I was 18. I believed you. She had opportunities. She had a choice," I said. "Those are different things." Her mouth tightened. "You have no idea what you walked into tonight." "I was hit by a truck," I said. "I didn't walk into anything." "Mia's father is sick," she said, quietly, like a hand of cards being laid on the table. "His care is expensive. Nathan's family has resources. She was going to need that. This isn't about the past. This is about what comes next." "So she's a transaction," I said. She looked at me sharply. "She's my daughter," she said. "Then let her decide," I said. "She's 33 years old." Before she could answer, the curtain opened again. "Mia," she looked at her mother. Then at the space between us. Something crossed her face, not surprise, more like the particular recognition of a thing you've always known finally being said out loud. "So that's why," she said. Her voice was very quiet. "That's why you pushed me back toward him." Her mother turned. "Mia, you didn't want me protected, you wanted me arranged." No one spoke. The ER kept going outside the curtain, beeping, rolling, the low, constant work of people keeping other people alive. In this bay, everything was still. Mia walked to my bed. She took my hand, the good one, not the sprained one, and held it in front of her mother and the security guard who had appeared at the curtain, and approximately half the nursing staff who had found reasons to be nearby. "When you discharge me," I said to Mia, "will you let me drive you home?" "You have cracked ribs and a sprained wrist," she said. "I'm driving." "That works too." Her mother left. Nathan sent a message to hospital administration that resulted in a brief, uncomfortable visit from the charge nurse that was resolved in about 4 minutes when Mia produced a timeline of Nathan's interference with patient care. He resigned from the Volunteer Hospital Advisory Board by morning. She drove me home at 4 a.m. in her car that smelled like coffee and hand sanitizer and something faintly like cedar. We sat in the parking lot of my apartment for a while before I got out. The rain had stopped. The lot was very quiet. "I need to say something," she said, "before this becomes another thing we don't say." "Okay, I'm not 17, she said. "I'm tired and complicated, and my family is a problem, and I work too much, and I spent 6 months almost engaged to someone who managed me like a project, and I don't entirely know what I'm doing." "I eat cereal for dinner," I said. "I have one chair on my balcony. I've been divorced 14 months, and I still flinch when something good happens because I keep waiting for the part where it costs something." She looked at me, the first quiet smile of the whole night. "We're both a mess," she said. "We're both a mess," I said. "But this time we have each other's numbers." She helped me up the stairs. She checked my ribs one more time at my door because she was incapable of turning the nurse off. She said goodnight and left. I stood in my apartment with the folded paper still in my hand and the hospital bracelet and one chair on the balcony and the specific feeling of someone who has just had a very long day that was also the best thing that had happened to them in a very long time. She left Cedar Falls Regional 3 months later, not because of the situation with Nathan, though that helped clarify some things. Because a community health clinic in East Cedar Falls had been looking for a nurse practitioner who could work with uninsured patients, and Mia had been offered the position twice before and turned it down both times because of reasons that had more to do with expectations than with what she actually wanted. This time she said yes. Her father called the week after. The conversation lasted 11 minutes. She told me about it the next evening on my balcony, second chair by then, with a glass of wine and the particular calm of someone who has finally said a true thing to someone who needed to hear it. "He said he was disappointed," she said. "What did you say?" "That I was 33 years old and it was time both of us learned to be disappointed in ways that didn't involve me giving up my life." I held her hand. She leaned into my shoulder. The city was quiet below us. We learned each other slowly. That was the right pace for both of us. She learned I hated mornings before 8 and loved them after, that I made lists for everything and lost them immediately, that I called my mother every Sunday without exception, and that those calls were 30 minutes of pure relief. I learned she sang quietly when she was cooking without noticing she was doing it, that she read the last page of a book first, which I found baffling and she found obvious. That she had a habit of fixing small things around a space without mentioning it, a loose hinge, a crooked picture, the way you do when you're comfortable somewhere and just want it to work right. I recognized that habit immediately. One Saturday in November, she came over while I was on the phone with Lena, and when I came back, she'd reorganized my kitchen by logic I didn't understand but couldn't argue with. I didn't say anything. She looked at me like she was waiting for me to have a feeling about it. "It makes more sense," she said. "It really does," I said. She tried not to smile, failed. I learned things about Mia in increments, the way you learn anything real. She learned things about me the same way. Neither of us rushed it. We were both, I think, people who had been burned by assuming and by the kinds of certainty that other people pressed on us like something we were supposed to be grateful for. We had both spent years accepting lives that fit the expectations of people who loved us in ways that didn't quite leave room for us. So we went slowly, deliberately, with the particular care of two people who know how fast a good thing can disappear if you treat it carelessly. We had dinners that turned into evenings that turned into the lights going down and neither of us moving toward the door. We took walks along the river in the cold months when the city was quiet and our breath showed in the air, and she'd put her hand through my arm the way you do when warmth is practical and also isn't. We drove past the high school once on the way somewhere else. Neither of us mentioned it. But she slowed down, and I looked at the gymnasium doors, and she said, "Different people." "Same two people," I said. She thought about that. "Better versions," she said. "Better versions," I agreed. She squeezed my arm and we kept driving. Her father called twice that winter. The conversations were shorter than they used to be, not because she was cold, but because she was clear now in a way she hadn't been before. The things she wouldn't apologize for and the things she wasn't willing to trade away anymore had become visible to both of them. I met him once briefly at a family dinner she hadn't warned me about well enough. He was smaller than I expected, older. He shook my hand with the grip of a man who wanted me to know something about him, and looked at me the way people look at someone they've already categorized. Then he looked at Mia, and whatever he saw in her face made him look away first. "He's scared of you," I said on the drive home. "He's scared, I mean it," she said. "You do." "I do," she said, and she sounded like someone who had only recently discovered that meaning something was allowed. The first time she showed me the shoebox, I didn't know what it was. We were at her apartment, a Saturday in December, winter finally arriving properly in Cedar Falls, the particular cold that comes in off the ridge. She had made dinner and I had brought wine, and we had been sitting at her kitchen table talking about nothing specific in the very comfortable way of two people who have run out of things to perform for each other. She got up, went to the closet in the hallway, came back with a small cardboard box and set it on the table. "I want to show you something," she said. Inside were 3 envelopes, her handwriting on the fronts, addressed to my childhood home on Maple Street, sealed, stamps still on them, never sent. "I wrote them," she said. I couldn't send them. It felt too." She stopped. "I thought you had just decided the night wasn't, that it was easier to not follow up, and sending them felt like demanding something from someone who had already moved on." I picked up the top envelope, my name in her handwriting. The same handwriting I recognized now from sticky notes and grocery lists. "Can I said. She nodded. I opened it carefully. The paper was from a notebook, the edges slightly rough. She'd written in blue pen and her handwriting was smaller then, less certain, but the words were clear. She talked about the night, about the rain, about what it had felt like to have someone ask what she wanted without already having the answer ready. She talked about Boston and how the first week she had looked out her dormitory window and thought about Cedar Falls and thought about me. She had called my name in her head like a question she didn't have an answer to yet. She talked about how strange it was to miss someone you had only been honest with for one night. I sat with that for a long time. "The paper yellowed," she said quietly, "but I couldn't throw them out." I looked up. She was watching me the way she watched everything, fully, without trying to manage what she saw. "Thank you," I said. She reached across the table and took my hand. The following spring we drove out to Sycamore Ridge on a night that smelled like rain that hadn't started yet. My very practical, very unromantic used Subaru. No motorcycle. Mia had made that a condition of everything that came after, and she had not been negotiating. We parked at the overlook. The city below was lit and blurred, and the river moved dark between the lights. She reached across and took my hand. "Do you remember now?" she asked. "All of it?" I looked at her. The girl from high school who I had been too convinced of my own limitations to talk to. The woman in the ER bay at midnight who had said my full name like she'd been carrying it. The person sitting beside me now with a shoebox of letters she'd never sent and a life she'd finally started choosing for herself. "Everything," I said. She kissed me in the dark with the city below us and the rain finally starting on the windshield. The same windshield, the same ridge, the same rain, different ending. There are things that happen to you at 17 that you carry quietly into your 30s without knowing you're still carrying them. Assumptions. The particular shape of what you believed you were worth. The stories you told yourself about which doors were for other people. I carried mine for 15 years. I thought the silence meant the night had meant nothing. I thought her absence meant she had looked at me clearly and seen what her mother saw, a grocery store kid with a beat-up car and no plan. And I had accepted that the way I accepted everything back then, quietly, without making a scene, moving on before the door finished closing. It is a very specific grief, finding out that the thing you let go of wasn't what you thought it was. She carried it too, 3 unsent letters in a shoebox. My name said in her head, like a question for 15 years. One night in an emergency room, my monitor making small embarrassing sounds, and her hands checking my pulse with the same care she gave everything, and neither of us able to pretend anymore that this was just medicine and coincidence. The balcony has 2 chairs now. The kitchen has been reorganized in ways I no longer question. She sings when she cooks, and I pretend not to notice because the moment I mention it, she'll stop. My mother cried when she met her, not dramatically, just quietly into a dish towel while Mia helped with the dishes as though she'd always been there. She sends letters now, too, real ones, on paper when something matters enough. She says it started as a habit from the one she never sent. She says she finally learned that words on a page can reach the person they're meant for if you stop being afraid that the person isn't ready. I keep every one. If you've ever let go of something that still had your name on it, if you've ever accepted a silence you didn't deserve because someone else's certainty was louder than your own, this story is for you. Subscribe to Whispering Porch Stories. We're here every Tuesday and Friday with a new one. Leave a like if Mia's shoebox stayed with you. And in the comments, has someone ever come back into your life at exactly the wrong and right moment? We'd love to hear it. See you next time.